Hi, I'm Kathy from Eclectic Images and welcome to some Christmas crafting. Today we're going to be using alcohol inks to decorate up a terracotta pot, which is a great gift idea for someone because then you can pot up some lavender or herbs or something in it, and yeah, it just makes a great prezi. So we're going to be using a couple of the Pinata alcohol ink colours, and I'll be using the Holtz Air Blower to move the inks around. So I've chosen to use Havana brown and some copper. We might add some Sangria in there as well. Not quite decided on that one yet. We're going to see what direction it goes. Now, if I was doing a traditional terracotta pot size, I might just do the top rim of the pot. The one I've grabbed is a very round shape, so I ended up sealing the whole lot. So we've got a fair bit of area to cover here. So you do need to, on the terracotta, you do need to paint it with a sealer. So I've used a white acrylic house paint. Just like a satiny one, so it gives a good surface, not really shiny, but a bit sheeny, yeah. So it just gives a good surface for the alcohol inks to move on. Otherwise, if I did it on the raw terracotta, they would just sink into it and I wouldn't get any movement happening. So as I said, if you're doing a traditional pot, you could just paint just that top band with your white. I would then cover the rest of the pot with some masking tape so you don't get alcohol ink fingerprints all over it or drip alcohol ink onto it. Anyway, but we've got a big shape to cover here, so let's get started. So I've got my Havana brown ready, and I'll just give the copper an extra twirl and then take the lid off that. And I want a wispy look to start with, so I'm going to be using just some cleanup solution in a bottle just to move that around. So let's add, and the inks are going to run everywhere on me, so it's going to be fun, because we're going to be going in all directions. So let's put some alcohol in there and start blowing. Now the challenge is going to be that it's going to run everywhere, and I'm going to want to keep doing the alcohol. I'm used to being able to put alcohol on with one hand and blow with the other hand. But because I've got to hang on to it, it's going to be interesting. But isn't that why we do different crafts? Because it's interesting. So I don't mind what's happening around there. We'll get round to that later. Let's just keep working this area. So blow it to get the wispy look. And let's get a bit more copper happening in there so we get some sheen. Bit of alcohol. And then smoosh it around. Alcohol inks is one of those things where you never quite know what you're going to get, especially when you suddenly give yourself a surface to work on that is challenging like this. So let's drop a bit of alcohol in there, start doing some smooshing. And I have to say, Matthew, is this working that the camera can see what we're doing? Yep. Or do I actually, oh it is? Okay. Because I realised I started off with it sort of facing me. So drop more alcohol in, let's shoof that. So it looks like we're going to get quite a stronger line in close to the pot there, close to the rim. And we might get our wispy stuff happening further out. So I just want to make sure that I cover area. I really want this sort of a look where we've got different intensities of colour showing. So we have some deeper colour and some softer colour. Let's move a bit of that copper over the top there. So the copper is going to give it a beautiful shine, and in spots it'll develop some little raised bits. The copper doesn't tend to float up as much as the brass or the gold do, but it still gives a beautiful shine and you get a little bit of raising up. Let's just smoosh that out a bit before we even get the alcohol in there. We might even be able to get some patterns happening just by rolling it around. So it is a challenge when you start working on a 3D shape. Definitely a challenge. But very cool. Now I think the way it's going, I'm liking it, but I think I am going to add some of the Sangria in there as well. I want some deeper colour happening too. And of course, I could be about to totally muck it up. Let's see what we get. But you know, if I'm not happy with it, we can put some more alcohol and just move it around a bit more. But I think that is going to be just that extra depth that we needed. So let's keep that going. We're going to build it up with the Havana first and then add a little bit of Sangria in over the top. But we might just try and fill these bits in just with a bit of copper. I don't want to take away totally from the patterns we've already got happening there with the Havana. So I'm moving it around. Actually, I'm going to switch to using the Claro for the moment and see if we get a little bit of easier movement with that rather than the alcohol. The alcohol might be drying a bit too quick. So let's pop a little bit of Claro on and put our inks into that. Whoa, got a great blow up happening there. Let's keep blowing. Oh, I just blew the tablecloth, got ink all over it. Oh dear, just as well it's my tablecloth and I'm not going to tell anyone else off for it. Bit of brown there. So I'm trying to cover all the white, but I'm quite happy that we're getting a mixture of wispy and blobby. Let's stick a spot of that in there. Spot of Claro, that was the Sangria. No, I think that needs a bit more alcohol just to get that moving a bit more. So you can use both. You can use Claro and the alcohol. You don't need to choose one or the other. We've got a big white spot down there, so let's try and fill that in with some Havana and some copper, I think. Let's again put a little bit of Claro on. A bit of our Havana. Some copper. I'm trying to hold it a bit upright so it doesn't move until I'm ready to do it in front of the camera. Okay. How are we going, Matthew? We're still managing to see what I'm doing. That's better. Yeah. If I can do it at that angle. Let's pop a few drops of copper there and there. That is coming up really nicely. Okay, but we've just got to keep going. Now I could actually, let me just pop that down for a moment. I'm going to grab my applicator tool with a fresh pad on it. And just some of those areas where the pot is a bit flatter, if I've got a little bit of white there that I'm not happy with, let's just put a little bit of our colours on, particularly the Havana and the copper. A little bit of Claro. And let's see if we can just fill in some of those patches just with a bit of marbling. I need more Havana, I think. So just the bits that are a bit hard to get to with running the ink, we can just fill those in with our applicator. We could do the applicator over the whole lot, but I wanted more of the wispy, runny look rather than the marbled look. So let's work from there and tackle this bit. Or should we work around this way? That might be a bit easier to see. Okay, let's fill ourselves in here. Matthew, please do tell me if I start wafting out of vision. And it looks like we've just gone all the way around, so that's good. That's got that bit done. So that's just going to mean I haven't got to worry about trying to get the colour all the way down to the bottom. And I could certainly, if there's any bits where I'm seeing a bit of white, I could come in and just add a little bit there. Okay, let's keep on going. So we'll pop some Claro in. Havana. Copper. Don't forget you need to give the copper a bit of a shake every now and again. And a bit of smooshing. And then let's get that drop of Sangria in there as well. A little bit more Claro. And let's put a drop of alcohol too. Let's move things around a bit more. Okay. This is developing some beautiful patterning. Now this is something that will look really nice with a coat of, I would spray it with some sealer spray when I've finished, and then maybe a coat of, you could do a coat of a UV spray as well, particularly if it's going to be a gift item for someone and you don't want it fading. And then a couple of coats of exterior varnish, or even you could resin it. Although I think I would have trouble resining a shape this rounded. I think that would be very challenging. A bit clearer next to there and try and move those colours into that spot. We're getting some really interesting runs happening around the other side. Okay, so Claro, and a bit of copper, chuck a bit of Havana brown in there, and let's get some movement happening. Try and fill all those little gaps in, and then push that ink around. If we want to, drop a bit of alcohol on, and keep moving it. So we're getting a lovely shine to it because of that copper. The inks themselves, if we were just doing, let me just do a bit just with the brown. The inks themselves will give a great effect, but it's going to be much more matte. So if we have a look at that area compared with this over here, you can see adding the Sangria gives it a richness, but it's the copper that's bringing up that real shine to it. And I'm relying on Matthew to tell me if I'm getting way too carried away here and going over time.
12 and a half minutes.
Oh, we're doing fine. We've got way more time to play then. This is great. Touch of Sangria. I'm loving how the Sangria moves over the top of the other colours. That's looking really good. But we are getting an occasional little spot there with no colour. Don't forget, with your metallics, give them a little bit of a shake every now and again, because they will start to settle. Let's just fill that in with some metallic and leave it with, you can see some of these spots we've developed some quite nice veins of metallic, which looks really good. You can see on the bottom of the pot how much, when it just touches the raw terracotta, it just sinks into it. So that shows really how much you need to put some sort of a sealer. Of course, I just used a white paint. If you wanted to, you could make life easier by using a paint that was already tinted with a brown first. So you're going over a creamy or browny surface, which means you haven't got quite so much of the starkness to try and cover. How are we going with vision, Maddie? I'm doing this top bit. Okay.
I was just thinking you're about halfway.
Around the pot?
Yeah.
It is one thing too, as long as you remember what colours you've used, if you get tired hanging onto the pot, just put it down for a while and come back to it. It's not going to matter because the inks keep blending and moving. If you haven't put a sealer spray on it, it's not going to matter if you take a little bit of a break. Have a cuppa, come back and keep going. Whoa, that was a couple of drops there, so it might be a bit too much. Let's see, we're running back that way. Where are we going to? Mind you, once you've done something like this, you've done your workout for the day. Don't need to go for a jog now, do I? Ha! Like I was going to go for a jog.
Planning to go for
yeah. Although we have actually done our walk already today. Smoosh that down. We need a bit down here. It is a bit annoying when it runs off the edge of the pot and I realise I'm just wasting it, losing it down there. But, you know, this is the challenge of doing not a flat surface. And we want a challenge, don't we? Spot of sangria.
The question is, do you want to do an edit and finish it?
That could be a good idea because so that we can speed things up a bit so you're not watching me do. Oh yeah, we've still got a fair bit to go. Okay, what we're going to do is just finish the video here for a minute and I'm going to keep going and finish it off and then come back with you at the end and have a look. So that's got us all the way around the pot. Now you'll notice that in spots I haven't managed to get right up to the edge there. We've still got a bit of our white paint showing. So this is where I'm going to come in with a brush and actually fill in those bits. So I'm going to pop a little bit of Claro on my craft mat. I've already got some blobs on my craft mat of various colours that has happened as I've been working. But this would also be a good chance to use up some of the bits that are around the tops of the bottles. I can just grab a bit from there. I'm just going to put a bit of copper on the craft mat as well, ready for picking up a bit of copper. So now I can just go in and just dab. It's probably a bit difficult for Matthew to get in to see, as well as me being able to see. So we can just dab some colours in there. Are you able to see that, Matthew?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'll try and reach over a bit more that way.
So accommodating.
And we'll even pop a little bit of sangria in there as well. So I'll put a bit of that on the craft mat too. Let's go back to a bit of Havana. We're going to end up, because I'm using just one brush, it's going to end up with all the colours mixing together and going on at the same time. That's right, I can wipe out a bit on my bit of paper towel, go back and pick up Havana again. Just dab it in, dab in a bit of copper, and if we think we want a bit more depth, come in with a bit of sangria as well. Okay, so that's how we can just fill in that extra little white bit there. And I could actually just look if there's a couple of little spots that I'm not 100% happy with, I can just dab a little bit of colour on those. Let's spin it around, see if there's any more areas where we're just a little bit light on. Just very dense. If we do too much, it'll show up as a pattern. If we're just careful how we just dab a little bit in, we can just fill in some spots without it looking obvious that we've done it. How are we looking? It's pretty magic. Now, as I said, I just covered it with the white house paint that I've used when I've been doing canvases and things. It would make it easier if I'd used a brown paint to start with, or at least a creamy colour. And the other thing we could have done to have made it a bit easier and sped things up is where I used the applicator tool to do that base part, I could have actually done a coat over most of it with that and then started the dropping the inks on, which would mean our ink coverage would have been easier because we would have got, it wouldn't have shown up so much if there was little white spots showing through. So we could have made life a little bit easier for ourselves by just altering those couple of things, but the result is amazing, isn't it? How gorgeous is that going to be? So we'll give that a coat of the Kmart varnish just to seal it, and a UV varnish for spray as well, and then I'll give it a couple of coats of just paint on a few coats of an external lacquer, and that is going to make an awesome Christmas present. Okay, thank you for watching that one with us. That's been great. It's messy. It's never going to turn out how you think it's going to turn out because the inks are just running all over the place. But lots of fun. If I'd got, this pot has already been glazed on the inside, so if I've got alcohol inks up sort of onto the edge of it where I don't want them, I could actually just get before I do any sealing, just get a bit of alcohol on a bit of paper towel and just wipe around those bits and clean that bit off a bit. So we're still movable at the moment. Okay, there we go. There's our beautiful pot. Okay, so I hope this inspires you to actually have a go at making some presents for friends. As I said, if you're doing a standard terracotta pot, just paint a small band of it, and particularly when you're first doing a pot, it does get a fair bit hanging on to something for a while. So just cover the rest of it with masking tape, and then you'll be able to just paint the area you want to and not have to worry about doing such a large area. This was just a project I've been itching to do for a while, so it was worth having a go at the whole thing. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.